Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. To girl Marina here, and I'm so glad to have you back. If it's your first time here, you're welcome. My name is Marina. I make videos from Saskatoon, Canada, where I share about my experiences as a Nigerian immigrant in Canada. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you're a returning subscriber, you would be familiar with this face.
Hello.
Hi, welcome back to our channel. So this is my husband Fred, and he's joining me today especially because of the topic that we're going to be talking about. As you would already have seen from the title of the video, we're going to be sharing with you today how we discipline our Nigerian children in Canada. Yes, this topic, I really could have had this conversation alone, but I just don't think it will make sense for me to do it alone, especially since I'm not solely responsible for discipline of our children. So I thought, okay, it would be best for both of us to have this conversation together. So if you want to hear more about how we're doing it, please do well to keep watching. Okay, so discipline for us normally has been, when we're back in Nigeria, spanking was an acceptable method of discipline. Like, it's the most popular method of discipline, right? Do you agree? That's how I was raised. I was spanked as a kid. Like, I mean, for everybody who grew up in our time, you know that it was not out of place to be beaten by your parents. It was some of those beating till tomorrow. I still believe that was abuse, but that's not the kind of conversations Nigerians want to hear. People don't want to hear that our parents were capable of anything close to abuse. But the truth is, there were some kind of stories that I heard that I think, man, this has to be abuse. Like, my mother used to wake up at night when people were sleeping so that nobody would come and save you. Is that not abuse? So that was an acceptable thing growing up. It was what our parents used to do. Were you beaten as a child?
I wouldn't say I was. I probably would have remembered, right? But I think not beaten. No, I wasn't. You
can already see how that would affect how we will raise children, right? I was predominantly beaten as a child, and he wasn't, so that's already going to be a factor that comes into play when it's time for us to now discipline our children. And then coming to Canada, I think for us, because our children were 3 and 2 years old by the time we moved, I will not say we were we were actively doing any form of serious discipline. Like, they were still kids, just a little stop that or a spank on the palm will usually get the job done. But coming here to Canada, we realized, or we heard, that it was not legal to hit children. It is still not legal for you to beat children in Canada. So we had to now really sit down to decide what exactly would pass for discipline for us, especially now that our children are older than where they were when we moved. Like, we had to now sit down and reorganize what's discipline going to be like. What kind of children do we want to raise, and what do we need to do? What are the things we need to put in place to enforce discipline? And some of those things are what we'll be sharing with you today. Well, the first thing that I want us to look at is what would you say is the role of the parents? Like, do you think the relationship that we have has any significance in how we discipline our children?
Yeah, I think the role that we as parents play is important, because number one, kids learn more than they're told. They learn from how we interact with each other. And I think if my son, our son, hears daddy say he's going to do something and he does it, it's some kind of integrity there. So I think it's important that we model what we want to see as behaviors in our kids. So that's why I think the role of parents is, if your kids don't think that you're a parent of integrity, there's a chance
it's going to show up when they're
not going to be honest with you.
True that. So when you tell them to do things and they see you do the opposite, you are just taking a gun and shooting yourself in the foot, because in the future, when you tell them to do that same thing that you told them and you are not doing it, you're just telling them that it's okay to talk. They will tell you okay when you say it, but when it comes to actually doing it, then they don't follow through with it. Do you notice anything about maybe when we have had an argument, like there's tension between us, do you notice that our children try to play on that? Do you think they notice, first of all, when there's tension, and do you think they capitalize on that to try to get what they want by almost pitching us against each other. Like, so let me tell you what I mean. If, for instance, where regardless of whether there's been an argument or not, if both of us are not in the same space, one child can come to me and ask me for something, and if I say no, they can go behind my back and come to you and ask you that same thing. And if you don't know that I have said no and you say yes, it somehow now makes it look like both of us are not on the same page. We are not. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say the relationship between us, if there's tension or how friendly we are together, do you think that plays a role in what they see and what they hold on to?
I don't think there really even has to be any sort of tension. I just think that if the kids think that mommy and daddy are working as a team, then there's that thing where they can divide and conquer. And I will be honest, it's a mistake that we probably made a few times over the years, where one child goes to ask you something and you say no, and then they come to ask me, and because I want them to just go and leave me because I'm probably busy, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. And then that causes friction between us, and then you look like the bad parent and I look like the good cop.
I'm always the bad cop in this house. Let's just
I had to start learning that if mommy says no, and then my daughter, especially my daughter, she comes and like, daddy, like, what did mommy tell you? Right? And then she's
disarmed. She's just disarmed.
Right? But before it would be, oh yeah, sure, go get it. And so yeah, I think if the kids know that you're working as a team, or we're working as a team, then there's very little tendency that they'll want to work both of us into different corners, right?
Okay, so for me, I thought it was important for us to establish those basics first to help people understand that beyond just discipline, the child, what you put in place to enforce the discipline is actually not the first thing. So the first thing would be, what kind of dynamic have you already created in your family? What exactly are the values that you as the adult, or us as the parent, what are the values we are already living? What is the kind of relationship that we have one with another? All those things, whether we accept it or not, play a huge role in how your kids will respond to discipline. It will play a huge role in how they respond to the things that you say, or how they respond to the rules that you have set in place. Right? So it's important to understand that the relationship you have with your spouse plays a role. So if there's already a problem between husband and the wife, it's going to trickle down. Your children are going to notice it. Our children notice when there's tension. Our children, they kind of notice when everything is not, or everybody's chatty. And for me, I would say I can cover that. Like, we can really always have smiles in front of them, but I don't think it's realistic to paint that picture of, oh, we're always smiling in this family. We let them know that it is okay to argue, it is okay. Sometimes there will be tension, sometimes mommy and daddy will disagree, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other. So in there, we're already teaching them conflict management. Like, if something is wrong, it is okay for something to be wrong, but we still love each other and we find a way to sort it out. Right? So it's not completely out of place for your children to notice there's tension. Just don't let the tension be prolonged. Like, let them see the tension, let them also see the solution, and see that, okay, there was a problem, this was how it was solved, and we did better moving forward. Right? So that's something we do. We try to set realistic, let the tone of our house be realistic. It's okay, those things will happen, but we'll find a way around it.
I just wanted to talk about something very quickly before we go into how we do it. Is an example of how, or the model that we as parents showed them, so that they can understand what in terms of how we discipline them. Is, example, mommy and daddy are talking and they come into the room. I would say, Jeremy and Daphne, mommy and daddy are talking. Yeah. Because, as we'll see later, some of the things, foundations were built so that we can enforce or ensure that they're disciplined.
Exactly. And I like it when we do that, because for them, first of all, it teaches them mommy and daddy are going to need time for themselves too, and that's okay. We're not always going to be 100% at your beck and call. Now, depending on their age, there are times where you have to be at their beck and call 100%. But my children are now at the age where they understand those things. We're teaching them patience and saying you have to wait. We're teaching them manners and saying you cannot just barge in, right? It's just a lot of things in one when we do that.
And the other thing too is when we say mommy and daddy are talking, because when we tell them, maybe maybe Jeremy offends Daphne, we would say, did you talk
about it first? Yes, right? They talk about it.
So if they know that mommy and daddy talk, then that's an avenue
to teach them that you can actually talk through your issues as well. So how do we really do it? The first thing that I think we came to a point where we had to understand was that we needed to understand our children, not just understand them individually and how they are different and alike, right? So for those of you who don't know, we have 2 children. We have a son who's 7 and our daughter is almost 6. My daughter, she's almost 6, right? Our children are they're close. They're really good friends. Like when you see them play, sometimes you think it's 2 adults. Sometimes they have conversations, you think it's 2 adults that are talking, right? They're very close, but they're also very, very different. How love means different things to 2 of them. For my daughter, for instance, she's very emotional. So you can see or you can touch that it's important to her that you listen to her. It's important for her to be reminded constantly that she's loved. It is important for her to know that daddy and mommy support me. Daddy and mommy will treat me a certain way, right? For my son, on the other hand, he likes the hugs. He likes you can already, as in from just looking at 2 of them, you can tell that you can't punish them the same way, right? For my daughter, if you punish her by taking away her TV time, that's not going to work. For my son, if you punish him by taking away TV time, he's going to kneel and beg. You know, just knowing them, knowing the difference, knowing how my child is, has helped us to figure out which discipline style can we use tailored to each child.
For him, he's a talker, right? He wants to talk through issues. And I used to make that mistake, and you corrected me. When he's trying to explain something, I was like, Jeremy, just listen. And you would tell me, after he leaves, like, baby, hear him out. He wants to say something.
Because that's how I am. I know how to talk through. I want to talk through my issues, and I can already see that playing in him. Like,
but for Daphne, she's not the wants to talk. She wants it done.
Just say sorry. Let me get out of here. Yeah.
Jeremy doesn't know, and that would say, Daphne, apologize to Jeremy, and she's okay. I'm sorry. Jeremy says the reason why he's upset.
He wants to
Jeremy, but she just said, he said no, because Daphne, you promised last week. Like, it was frustrating. Then, like, Jeremy, she said sorry, but for him it's different. That's a different.
He wants to talk about how he made him feel. But for my daughter, she's cool with just saying, I'm sorry, I won't do that again.
You know, funny enough, we kind of like taught him that, because you remember when he would just, you know, when maybe Daphne would upset him, and we don't give him a chance to vent that. And we noticed he started getting a little moody sometimes. Like sulky, he would not associate with us, and so we started getting him to talk, because it's important that, you know, sometimes you think the girls get away, especially when daddy's involved. But I had to start learning that Jeremy is also a person. Daphne's not any better than him.
Exactly. He needs that same kind of emotional support and that too. Okay, so that was very important to us to understand our children and look for discipline styles that were specific to each child. Yeah, you just talked about you know, knowing your kids, and it's also important that we be friends. Sometimes kids think that when you discipline them for something they did, it's because you don't love them, and it's important that we establish friendships. That means maybe, and you know how Jeremy really likes the new game he just found. When you come sit down with him, it's so that means a lot to explain. To just sit down and watch him play that stuff. So that's where you get friendly with them. For me, it's second nature. For us, it's not second nature. It is second nature.
To have family night, play around, watch movies with them, and, you know, do the things they do, play Legos, color, all that stuff. That's how you know, you're friends with them, and they can tell you things.
True that.
You might think those investments don't pay off now, but
it does. It will pay off later. In life, honestly, that's how I see it. And for us, we also saw a need to keep our children reminded that, look, there are consequences for actions. There are rules, there are things like that, but regardless of what it is, you need to know firsthand that regardless of what happens, mommy and daddy love you. That's never going to change. Mommy and daddy value you as a person, like you're important to us. Do you understand? Just to help them know that in life you're going to make mistakes. We put all these things here as foundations, but it is not a blueprint to say you can never make a mistake. Children are going to make mistakes, but we want you to know that if you make a mistake, you should still have the confidence to come to us.
Tell the truth.
I think that's what was different for us growing up. For us, we had, because it was just rules. When you broke the rules, the tendency was now to lie
Yeah,
because of fear.